Hi there. I'm Dave Finnegan, the first Green Actioneer. I want to tell you about the phases of my focused life, going from preparation to apprenticeship to proof of concept, design stage, minimally viable product, program launch, and headed toward growth. Now, I was born before the Second World War in 1941. And I'm just now getting to the point where I'm ready to blossom and create this program. Phase one, preparation. My dad was a U.S. naval officer, so we traveled perpetually. And everywhere we went, there was an ocean nearby. His duty stations took us to Annapolis, Newport, Guam, Sasebo, Japan, Virginia Beach, and we spent our summers with the grandparents on Cape Cod, where we had a victory garden. And we raised our own vegetables through the Second World War and even right through the Korean War. I was an avid fisherman and a novice farmer. And evening's read for me was one of Rachel Carson's early books. And my Roger Torrey Peterson Field Guide to the Birds was always within reach. I was a self-identified nature lover before tree hugger or environmentalist became popular. I chose Cornell University for the view of Cayuga's waters and because they let my dog run free on campus. So that was phase one, preparation, and it lasted just over 20 years. In phase two, in 1966, as a Cornell anthropology graduate, and a recently discharged U.S. Army captain, I reported for work as an advisor with the Population Council in South Korea, where I worked for 3 years. There were 3 foreigners involved. My boss was Paul Hartman, the Korea office director. He was an extremely dedicated, white-haired administrator, and his boss, an itinerant person, was Sam Keeney. He was the Asia representative for the Population Council. Sam was 74 years old when I started working for him, and he had retired twice before, but was so dedicated to social and economic change that he was determined to keep being useful. He ended up serving another 15 years, most of that time traveling from country to country, bringing with him a vision of how a program could be designed to effectively change a culture. Without much fanfare, we helped Korea, Taiwan, the Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, and other East Asian countries get a handle on excessive population growth. We dropped the average family size in the region from 6 children to less than 2 in a generation. We did this by helping our local counterparts to organize thousands of mothers' clubs at the village level and at the neighborhood level. And that was where local women could learn about options from trusted neighbors and get started on a pathway to small family size. I earned my union card, which was the Master's in Public Health Education, at UC Berkeley, and I transferred to Taiwan for 3 years and then to the Philippines for 3. We were enormously successful everywhere except the Philippines, which, because of adherence to Catholic teachings, resisted the transformation that was happening in neighboring countries. What I learned from Sam Keeney was the value of persistence and the importance of having an overarching plan, working at the village and neighborhood level. In other words, bubble up instead of trickle down, and staying nimble and positive no matter what. So that was phase 2. My apprenticeship, and it gobbled up 10 years. Phase 3. Well, our current approach to get the entire school involved in going green is modeled on a program entitled Juggling for Success that I designed while I was in a doctoral program at the University of Washington, because I had a severely disabled and medically vulnerable cerebral palsied son, Davy, who's now 55, I could not safely return to the third world. I wanted to apply what I'd learned about culture change to a domestic U.S. program where I could have fun, and make money. So for 30 years, from 1976 through 2006, as Professor Confidence, I personally delivered Juggling for Success one-day programs in over 2,000 elementary schools in 46 states and 12 countries, and I trained over 50 presenters to deliver the program worldwide. The secret to our success was the flow of the day. We always started with a teacher's meeting either early that morning or the previous afternoon. I would teach all the teachers to juggle with slow-moving nylon scarves, and they'd rush off to show their students what they had learned. That's what it looked like. Then they brought me the kids a grade level at a time in the gym or the cafeteria, and I taught them at their ability level, which meant one scarf for kindergartners, 2 scarves for first grade, 2 in one hand for second grade, 3 straight up and down for third grade, and then the cascade, which is the actual infinity sign juggling pattern with fourth grade and above. Many middle and high schoolers went on to beanbags, rings, and clubs in that first class based on their ability and on their accomplishments. Then we'd hold an all-school assembly and every student was in the show. They got up with their entire grade level and performed. To close the show, the teachers would all get up and juggle scarves to thunderous applause. That evening, we'd hold family night, and after the kids got up on stage and showed their parents what they'd learned, I'd teach all the parents to juggle scarves, and if there were any parents who already juggled, we'd let them go on to the next level with advanced gear. Then the parents performed. Everybody had a great time, and at the end of the evening, they go home with their own set of scarves. Oh, and also with some of the other products that we created, beanbags, balls, rings, clubs, devil sticks, diablos, everything that you could possibly juggle. So I sold over 1 million copies of my books. The Joy of Juggling, The Complete Juggler, Juggling from Start to Star, and The Zen of Juggling. They were published in 7 languages, German, French, Italian, Dutch, Portuguese, Spanish. Oh, and there are bootleg copies available in Chinese. So I went to state and national conferences, and I trained thousands of PE teachers to deliver our program. Most of the schools would put a chart up on the wall where the kids could then put up a Post-it note, and on the Post-it note, they would write what it is that they had done. And that is part of what's going to happen next. We started a worldwide recreational juggling movement. And it only lessened after handheld electronic devices became more attractive to youngsters than putting their energy into becoming accomplished jugglers. So that was phase 3, my proof of concept, and it lasted for 30 years. Phase 4, I had a wake-up call, and that was Seen an Inconvenient Truth, Al Gore's film about the climate in fall of 2006. I realized that with my experience in family planning and visiting schools worldwide, I could create a program which would focus on getting every family in the school to save energy, save water, save money, and create a clean and green future. So the next step in my journey was in January 2007 when I got trained by Mr. Gore to present his scary slideshow. But I realized I could not present that terrifying stuff to my typical audience of elementary school moms, dads, teachers, and kids. I wanted to focus not on how bad it might be if we do everything wrong, but on how great it's going to be when we do everything right. So I created a program, now I'm on the proper side here, called Climate Change is Elementary. And I delivered it in schools in Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and Colorado, where most parents and teachers agreed with the basic concepts of climate change and just wanted to know how we as a society could solve the problem. But even in those schools, a few dads would come to family night loaded for bear. It was always a dad. Although everyone else was sitting on the floor in family units, he would stand in the back of the room with his arms crossed and with his kids by his side, looking grim. After a few minutes, he'd generally raise his hand and say something like, How do we know that this climate idea is real? I've heard it's a hoax invented by the Chinese to cripple American industry, or some such story. Then I would show a slide, and that slide said, whether the climate is changing or not, and whether people are responsible or not, our kids deserve a clean, green future. Let's give it to them. So then everybody in the room, except him, would read that statement aloud as a group. And that would quiet him down enough that he'd either sit down and participate or he'd leave. But principals did hear back from these disgruntled dads. In that program, after learning about the problem and reviewing what they could do, families left family night with a checklist of about 100 steps they could take to save money and save energy and go green. We did get volunteers from among the parents to be on the green team for the school, but because we didn't leave the program behind, I'm afraid most of those checklists ended up on the refrigerator door at best. So that was phase 4. That was my design stage, and it lasted for 20 years if we include the COVID pause. So, phase 5. Just before and during the pause, with the help of over 60 undergraduate interns at the University of Central Florida, I designed the 5th phase, which I will introduce in 2023 and work on throughout the 2020s and beyond. This program is designed to be ecumenical, so no parents or teachers should be opposed to it because it is designed to avoid controversy. In this new version of the impactful one-day school program, we've left juggling and climate change, global warming, and sea level rise entirely out of the equation, and we're focused on going green for its own sake. For instance, if your dad is a fisherman, then he wants to be able to eat his catch. If he's a hunter, he wants more game to shoot. If he's a farmer, he wants healthy soil. If he works outdoors as a day laborer, he wants more shade. So it's hard to argue against having less pollution, cleaner air, better water, more trees, more cost-effective heating and cooling, and healthier kids. So when we redesigned the program, we made it much simpler so any green-hearted adult can run it in a single school. Instead of holding successive grade-level classes where kids played games imitating the plight of endangered species, as we had done in Climate Change's Elementary, we decided to leave those issues to the science teacher or the classroom teacher or to parents and the media, and we now focus entirely on solutions. Solutions to what? Well, that's up to you. But the flow of the day, starting with the teachers' meeting and the involvement of teachers when we meet with their kids and the excitement of classes throughout the day and family night that evening are still a big part of the program. And just like we did with both previous programs, everybody goes home with something they can use. In this case, teachers learn about the Green Actioneers Family Guide in the teachers' meeting that starts the day. Then the kids get to go through the book in short classroom-based visits conducted by a PTA parent who's designated as Professor Green. She or he goes from classroom to classroom with a pile of books, helping the kids go through the book and fall in love with it. That's easy because the book has something for everyone. It's a storybook about 3 diverse families whose kids are all in the same classroom at Watson Elementary. It's elementary, Watson. Bobby's family of 3 adopted kids lives in the inner city in an apartment complex, and they use public transportation everywhere they go. Lakeisha lives with her brother Jamal in a big house in the suburbs with a 3-car garage. Ken Chen and his brother Mike live on a mini farm in the rural fringe of town. We learn about over 100 steps that their families can take to go green. And that part is in English and it's in Spanish too. There's even a Where's Waldo feature, searching for these 2 little space aliens that are located somewhere in every picture. So we learn these 100 steps, and at the end of the book, after we met our 3 families, Bobby's family and Lakeisha's family and Ken Chen, whose who lives with his brother Mike on a mini farm in the rural fringe, we meet Awanita. And Awanita's family has been in that area for thousands of years. They're indigenous, they're Native Americans. Her community has decided to let her attend Watson Elementary because of the progress that families from the school have made towards sustainability. Now, Awanita's subcommunity is not just sustainable, they're regenerative. So, to the youngest students, it's a coloring book with over 120 pages to color. For slightly older kids, there are about 100 relevant word games and puzzles based on material in the book. For the eldest students, there are 120 quotations to research from notable people, from Hippocrates to Jane Goodall. And for everyone, there are 100 actions that families can take, explained in English and Spanish. So that's the book. There in every drawing, can do and can't do are debating whether humans are up to the task of creating a sustainable planet. And so that's part of the puzzle, is, are humans going to make it? And of course, at the end of the book, we decide that humans are going to make it. So everybody gets to go through the book, and that evening, when the families come to school, every family gets a book to go through while they sit in a family huddle on the floor in the gym or cafeteria at Green Actioneers Family Night. You might think of it like the Scholastic Book Fair, but with only one book. So the families come and sit together, and they get to decide what it is they're going to do. Then the kids raise their hands and volunteer an action from the book that they intend to take. And when that action is announced, all the other kids can jump up and shout, "We can do that too!" which they rehearsed earlier in the day in the classroom visits. So this is raucous fun. And after somewhere between 12 and 20 actions have been announced, Professor Green gets the families to volunteer to be on the Green Actioneer team for the school. The principal or another official takes a photo of that Green Actioneers volunteer group. And they're put in charge of the next step, which is continuation of the program in their school. This is accomplished, as it was with the juggling program, with a big chart on the wall that has Post-it notes on it from families declaring what actions from the book they've actually taken. This chart is then the motor for the program, and hopefully it'll be up on the wall in the hallway forever as the community transitions to sustainability. Another feature of the program is that the Green Actioneers parent team is urged to go to local vendors of energy and water-saving products and services like solar installers or insulation or double-paned window, or vendors of any energy-saving devices or services, or EV dealers. And they get them to promise to give discounts to families and rebates to the school every time the Green Actioneers team sends them a customer. These rebates can be substantial, and they can make thousands of dollars for the PTA or for the Green Actioneers team. So the families in the community save energy and water and money, and the school gets rebates, and local vendors of energy and water-saving devices and services get customers. So what I've just described is phase 5. It's the natural evolution of my environmental concerns over 82 years from 1941 to 1923. Our MVP, or minimally viable product, is a one-day program built on all that's gone before. So let's get started all over the US and elsewhere in the next few years as the book gets translated into English plus other languages and gets modified to fit other cultures. The steps to take to start and operate the program are explained right in the front of the book, so that any school can start a program with a single copy of the book. And then I expect that I'm going to hold a weekly Zoom meeting on Sundays at 2 p.m. That'll start in the next year, in January of 2023. And Every week on our Zoom call, we'll hold an information session to review the operations of the program, and then we'll answer questions and send the participants who want to discuss this further into breakout sessions by geographical region so they can work together on their own community. So if people want to get involved, they just have to get in touch with me at Dave Finnigan, DaveFinnigan, at greenactioneers.com, and that'll get you in on the Zoom call. If I sold over 1 million books and started a worldwide movement on a relatively trivial skill like juggling, just think how much impact we can have with a really good book and this important topic. So I'm Dave Finnigan. I'm the first Green Actioneer, but certainly not the last. It's time now for Phase 6, that's the program launch, and for Phase 7, and that's international growth. Thanks a lot. I'm Dave Finnigan, the first Green Actioneer, but certainly not the last.